I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. And you can keep your plan if you are satisfied with it.
If you like the plan you have, you can keep it.
If you like your plan and you like your doctor, you won't have to do a thing. You keep your plan. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. If you've got health insurance, you can keep it. If you like your health care plan, you will keep your plan. If you've got health insurance, you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan.
If you have insurance that you like, then you will be able to keep that insurance. If you like your doctor or health care plan, you can keep it.
If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
If you like your private health insurance plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
If you like your private health insurance plan, you can keep it. If you want to keep the health insurance you got, you can keep it.
If you like the insurance plan you have now, you can keep it.
And if you like your insurance plan, you will keep it. So if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your plan, keep your plan. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan.
If you're happy with what you got, nobody's changing it.
Those who can afford to buy insurance but don't, can afford to do it but don't, pay a fine. And if they refuse to pay a fine, there's a threat, as there is with lots of tax fines, there's a threat of jail time. And the Senate removed that provision in the Senate Finance Committee. Do you think it's appropriate to have a threat of jail time for those who refuse to buy insurance?
You know, what I think is appropriate is that in the same way that everybody has to get auto insurance, and if you don't, you're subject to some penalty, that in this situation, if you have the ability to buy insurance, it's affordable, and you choose not to do so, forcing you and me and everybody else to subsidize you, you know, there's a $1,000 hidden tax that families all across America are burdened by because of the fact that people don't have health insurance. You know, there's nothing wrong with a penalty. Now, what those penalties are, I think they have to be high enough that people don't game the system. On the other hand, I think it's important for us not to be so punitive that people who are having a hard time suddenly find themselves worse off because of health care reform, and that's why we built in some hardship exemptions. There may be situations, relatively rare, where even after the subsidies that are provided, it's still very hard for people to afford to get the health insurance that they need. And we should anticipate and build in those hardship exemptions. But I think the general broad principle is simply that people who are paying for their health insurance aren't subsidizing folks who simply choose not to until they get sick and then suddenly they expect free health insurance. That's a basic concept of responsibility that I think most Americans abide by.
But as the Senate puts its final bill together, and as the House and Senate prepare to vote on after the conference committee, yeah, they should know, does the president think jail time is an appropriate
Well, I'm not sure that's the biggest question
that
they're asking
question.
right now.
It's a
so
question.
I think I put out the principle that penalties are appropriate for people who try to free ride the system and force others to pay for their health insurance.
Okay.
It is true that what's happened is the website got overwhelmed by the volume.
We have had a few slowdowns, a few glitches, but it's sort of a great problem to have. It's based on the fact that the volume has been so high.
Our top issue when it comes to the glitches has been the extraordinary number of people coming to check out plans.
So this is all about the traffic? Nice try. But day 7 of that Obamacare website is still having problems, so forget overwhelming demand. Web experts like Russell Reeder are finding flaws with the design of the site itself. Explain.
Sure, Neil, thank you. Media Temple, this is what we do for a living. We run hundreds of thousands of websites for big businesses, small businesses, all kinds. Obviously, technology is very difficult. But unfortunately, when you launch a website, there's going to be some traffic. We launch websites with millions of hits an hour, It really looks like from our analysis that there's more than just traffic that has brought this down.
Americans will have until March 31st to either sign up or be enrolled in a health plan.
But what happens if you do not comply, especially since the website will not even be fixed for at least another month? Let's bring in the judge, Judge Andrew Napolitano, Fox's senior judicial analyst. Judge, great to see you.
Ali, Bill, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Okay, so if you don't sign up and you don't pay the fine, which is going to be somewhere between $100 and $700 based on your income, then what happens?
Ali, I have to correct you. According to the Supreme Court, it's not a fine, remember? It's a tax. Even though the government did not argue that it was a tax, and even though the people challenging did not argue that it was a tax, the Supreme Court has called it a tax. And because it's a tax, you have to pay it first and then seek your refund. This is insane. So people are going to have an additional tax bill. They must pay that tax bill and then petition the IRS. You see, like this, begging the IRS to have that money paid back to them because there was no insurance policy made available at the time the tax was due.
That's because of Judge Roberts' ruling. Is that what you're saying?
It's because of the Supreme Court's ruling that it's called a tax, but a tax is treated differently than a penalty. If you or I speed and we are to be punished for the speeding, we have points assessed and we pay a fine. That doesn't happen until after there's a trial and we're found guilty. But if you or I owe a tax and we think it's too much, we pay the tax first and get the money back later. That's exactly what will happen to these unfortunate individuals who will not be able to obtain insurance coverage because Obamacare doesn't work, because the computer system couldn't get them through to the insurance carrier, and because the deadline passed.
So it's like garnishing your wages.
Well, it is the moral equivalent of garnishing your wages, yes, because if you owe the tax and don't pay it, your employer will collect that tax by taking it out of money that will otherwise go to you and sending it to the IRS.
And so if somehow you get out of paying the tax first, then are you breaking the law?
Yes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, if you're at home and you were sort of flipping channels between the football games and C-SPAN, and you flipped on and only heard the majority party, you'd think, wow, what a great plan. I mean, really. You'd think people are just going to fall all over themselves, and all these adjectives and declarative statements, it just sounds wonderful, until you look inside that bill and you find handcuffs. Now, I'm not talking about figurative handcuffs. I'm talking about criminal penalties. Criminal penalties that have been mentioned by the gentleman from Texas, criminal penalties that have been mentioned time and again on this floor. We've heard from the best and the brightest all afternoon, and not a one of them have answered why it is you have to criminalize people to coax them into a plan that's fabulous. It makes no sense. And this isn't my words. This is actually coming from the Joint Committee on Taxation, a letter that was written, ironically, with Chairman Charlie Rangel as the chairman of that committee, released 48 hours ago, that says, in fact, if you don't comply with the individual mandate, what happens to you? You can be subject to 5 years in prison, and you can be subject to $250,000 in fines. And the other side, with all due respect, with all the adjectives and all the flourishing speech, have failed to answer that question. And I submit to you, if we listen today, if we listen to the remainder of this debate, they will be silent in terms of a good answer as to why it is you need to criminalize people to coax them into a plan.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. Hey, man. Here you go. Hey, bud. Thank you. So, like I was telling you, of course, I want health insurance. I want good coverage for that and the kids, too. Here's the thing. I just don't want to be told that I have to have health insurance.
I think you're reading this all wrong, man. Guys like you have coverage at work won't have to change a thing. It'll be seamless. January 1st, 2014 will come and go, no worries.
I know that's what you think, but that's not what the guys who read these bills and interpret them are saying.
You mean the conservative fearmongers?
Come on, Brad, you know that's not me. And besides, I've been doing a little digging on my own.
So enlighten me, smart guy. What's the health care bill say?
Okay, so first off, it's called the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
But hey, that sounds good, patient protection. And who doesn't want affordable care?
Well, as you said, though, this is not a bill. It's a mandate. It affects everybody, everywhere, all the time. But more to the point, who decides what affordable means? Is affordable the same in Detroit as it is in LA or Chicago?
But I'm sure they have a plan to work that all out. Don't they?
All we know is that all the plans are in the hands of the bureaucrats in D.C.
Now you're sounding like one of the fear guys again.
Well, maybe I am, but I'm serious though. Think about this. Didn't you tell me that your dad died from complication on his diabetes?
Yeah, it was really awful to watch such a big, strong guy deteriorate like that. You know, it was hell for my mom.
I'm sure. And so, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act says, and I quote, sets forth provisions governing wellness program.
Okay, so wellness program. That's good, right? I mean, it would have really helped my dad if he could have started taking care of himself a little sooner.
Okay, so what if wellness and prevention means that you can't have that caramel macchiato anymore? What if this mandated affordable care plan starts to tell you what to eat, when to exercise, when you will get treatment, and when you won't?
They can't do that. They can't do that.
What if wellness program means that when you go to your favorite burger joint, you have to show them your ID card, and it's quoted to tell them that you can have a double cheeseburger or no chili cheese fries for you because you have high cholesterol or a heart problem.
No macchiatos or chili cheese fries?
This whole bill about controlling cost, limiting coverage, and making sure everyone is included. To me, it's all about control, and more control means less freedom to make my own choices.
So wait, Nick at work says it's the same thing for car insurance. Everybody has to have car insurance.
Convenient argument, but it's not the same at all.
I kind of thought it was.
Well, it isn't. When do you drive your car? On public roads, right? It's a privilege to drive on those roads, and since it's the government who pays for them, the government sets the rules. Besides, it's up to the states to require whether or not you need car insurance, not the federal government.
Yeah, but it's still the government who's making you get car insurance in the first place. So what's the difference?
The difference is you have car insurance to cover the other guy. It's not there to protect your car, it's there to protect the other guy. Besides, if you're not planning on driving on public roads, guess what? You do not need car insurance. But this bill, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, requires you to buy government-approved health insurance simply because you exist.
Meaning?
Sick or healthy, rich or poor, old folks, kids, no matter who you are, no matter how you live, you have got to have it. But here's the rub. There is nothing in the Constitution that says the government has the power to make any American buy a good or a service.
Really?
In the last 80 years or so, the Supreme Court has allowed the federal government to regulate economic activity of individual Americans. But that's only on the ones who are actually doing the economic activity.
English, please?
The government is regulating you and you aren't doing anything. Apparently it believes that your existence alone justifies them making you do something. Don't you think that's a little scary?
So it sounds like the bureaucrats up in D.C. just want to control my life.
Exactly. The same one who brought you the national debt and high taxes. Now they're saying your mere existence alone is enough to tell you what to do, how to live, and what to buy. And that, my friend, is un-American.
Can't we stop this?
Not anytime soon. The president managed to sign this into a law, and you will feel its effects by January 1st, 2014.
So what's the answer?
Well, maybe you read the Constitution, find out who your congressman is, and start a conversation with them. Educate yourself about what's coming, and get off those macchiatos. They're bad for you.